So we are back again today with the last part of the first chapter of class 11th, chapter 1, that is Constitution, of the book Indian Constitution at Work. In the last lecture we were discussing the different categories of the amendments. The first one were only the technical provisions. The second one were those which were basically because of the difference between different political views. And the last one were those which were the amendments through political consensus, means those amendments that were there as a result of political consensus between the different political parties. As far as the amendments through political consensus are concerned, apart from the anti-defection amendments, that is the 52nd and the 91st, these amendments include the 61st amendment, bringing down the minimum age for voting from 21 to 18, and the 73rd and the 74th amendment, etc. In the same period, there were some amendments clarifying and expanding the scope of reservations in jobs and admissions. So these all were the amendments through political consensus. Now if we feel that always the amendments have been without any controversy, then this is not the case. There have been a lot of amendments which had a lot of controversy involved, and some of these controversial amendments included the 38th amendment, the 39th amendment and the 42nd amendment, which were made in the backdrop of the internal emergency which was declared by the then Prime Minister Srimati Indira Gandhi in 1975. So this period of 1970 to 1980, whatever amendments were made during this period, they generated a lot of legal and political controversy. The opposition parties saw them as attempts to subvert the constitution by the ruling party. They felt that somehow or the other, the ruling party is using these amendments to change the constitution as per their will. As far as if we talk about the 42nd amendment, this was an attempt to override the court ruling in the Keshwanand Bharti case. We already have done the Keshwanand Bharti case in the last lectures, where there was a ruling of the Supreme Court regarding when the amendments can be made and what role can the government play. So basically this 42nd amendment was to override this court ruling. Then the duration of the Lok Sabha was increased from 5 to 6 years, and the fundamental duties were also added up through this amendment. Moreover, this amendment put restrictions on the powers of judiciary. So basically you could say that this amendment was basically a pro-government amendment. As a result, it got lots of criticism, and finally when the government came down, then another two amendments were passed, that was the 43rd and the 44th amendment. These two amendments, basically what they did, they cancelled all the changes that have been brought by the 42nd amendment. Now if you talk about the basic structure and evolution of the constitution at a glance, then we say that if you, again that famous case I am quoting, that is the Keshwanand Bharti case. This case has actually led the judiciary, you could say, an agreement between the judiciary and the parliament, and this has set limits to the parliament's power to amend the constitution such that no amendment can violate the basic structure of the constitution. Moreover, it allows parliament to amend any and all parts of the constitution. It places the judiciary as the final authority in deciding if an amendment violates the basic structure and what constitutes the basic structure. This was basically done so that the parliament may not misuse its power and may get some amendments done. So all living documents, whatever living documents, for example, we are talking about here constitution as a living document. Why? Because constitution was using all the changes that were there in the society, and it was making use of those changes by making amendments. So all living documents evolve by debates, arguments, competitions and practical practical politics. You cannot evolve, you cannot decide a change in a particular document without using these tools. Therefore, we again and again say this word that constitution is a living document. Why? Because it keeps responding to the situations and circumstances arising from time to time. I told you in the last lecture that till 2018, in 68 years, nearly 101 times the constitution has been amended. Now, if you talk about the contribution of the judiciary, it plays a very important role in deciding that whether these amendments are required or not required, and whether they are violating the basic rights of the individual. So the judiciary plays a very important role in a kind of, you could say, a watchdog or a person to check the monopoly power, or whether the government is misusing its powers to amend the constitution. So this contribution of the judiciary cannot be denied. Moreover, the maturity of the political leadership, of course, over the years, the political leadership in India has changed many times. We have seen a long period of a one-party dominance, and then we also have seen the coalition politics. But all these political leadership, it should be, you could say, mature enough that any leaders will not decide that whether the amendment has to be done or not. It is the public who will check that what requirements they have and whether the constitution really need an amendment to suit the times. So this all is gradually done by the maturity of the political leadership, which is very necessary in deciding the amendments in the constitution. So with this we come to the end of particularly the concept that this constitution is a living document and it can be amended as per the needs of the hour. If we talk about the philosophy of the constitution, then constitution is a means of democratic transformation. So democratic transformation means that constitution basically means a change in the setup of the country, a change in the democratic setup, or in the transformation of the from a colonial rule, as India did, from a colonial ruled country to a democratic country. It is widely agreed that one reason for having a constitution is the need to restrict the exercise of power. For example, we need to draw the rules of the game in such a way that the tendency of the state is continuously checked. Constitution provides some basic rules and prevent the states from turning tyrannical. Constitution also provides peaceful democratic means to bring about social transformation, and the Indian Constitution was designed to break the shackles of traditional social hierarchies and to usher in a new era of freedom, equality and justice. The next thing, if you talk about the political philosophy of a constitution, then it is hard to describe this philosophy in one word. It resists any single label because it is liberal, democratic, egalitarian, secular and federal, open to community values, sensitive to the need of religious and linguistic minorities, as well as the historically disadvantaged groups, and committed to building a common national identity. So if you talk about the individual freedom, then individual freedom is very important aspect of the constitution. Why? Because it is stated in the fundamental rights also that the basic aim of the constitution is to exercise and protect the individual freedom or the individual dignity by giving him a set of rights that an individual can pursue and can enjoy being the citizen of a country. Then next important aspect is social justice. Again and again we have talked about the fact that Indian Constitution aimed to establish the concept of equality. This is why, because India has faced a lot of discrimination on the basis of caste, language, religion. So basically social justice was required for establishing a sort of an egalitarian society or a society which is based on equality. Then we have done this before, respect for diversity and minority rights, as India is a country of cultural diversity. So it is very important for our country that all the rights of these diverse groups as well as the rights of the various minority groups have also to be taken into consideration and have also to be respected for fulfilling or achieving a successful democracy. Moving to secularism, I suppose secularism, you all know what is secularism. Secularism means that India does not have any state religion and give equal respects to all religions. In all religions, and they all are equal in the eye of law. Universal franchise. We have talked in the last lectures also that this was a point where all the political parties were on consensus, and it was that every adult after achieving a particular age as assigned in the constitution is entitled to vote. So this universal adult franchise actually fulfills the concept of individual freedom also, and it also gives respect to the diversity and the minority rights. The next thing is federalism. So federalism, you will be again doing it in detail in the chapter in political theory. But we see that the constitution has created a strong central government. But despite this unitary bias of the Indian constitution, there are important constitutionally embedded differences between the legal status and the prerogatives of the different sub-unions within the same federation. Indian federalism has been constitutionally asymmetric. Although the constitution did not originally begin as such, but now it has become a multilingual federation. Last but not the least, the national identity, that is a person's identity as an Indian, is respected and is honored by giving him a set of rights, by protecting him by the law, and by giving him the chance to vote. So if you would say what are the procedural achievements of Indian constitution, then the Indian constitution reflects a faith in political deliberation, and it reflects a spirit of compromise and accommodation. With this, we have come to this extensive chapter of constitution. Before I close up, I would like to tell you that this, if you take at a glance, then this chapter you will be studying in detail the constitution, what were the main steps which led to the formation of the constitution, who all composed of the Constituent Assembly, then a very important aspect of constitution, that is the fundamental rights, the meaning of the right, what all is allowed by these rights, then the directive principles of state policies, and what all was included in it. Along with it, we have also discussed the amendments that have been made in the constitution, and why these amendments are necessary. Finally, we did what was the basic philosophy of the constitution. So, till we meet again with the first chapter of political theory, kindly revise this chapter in detail and do the questions which are given in NCERT. This chapter has now lengthened up because the chapter on rights, living documents and philosophy also have been added to it. So kindly do the questions of your NCERT and try to study by making notes. Till then, keep studying, stay safe.